They said I killed my baby with my sins. I was standing outside church when I heard it, whispers slicing through Sunday air like glass. She must have done something. No womb just stays empty for that long. One woman even crossed herself as she passed me, like I carried a curse instead of a uterus. My name is Sarah, and for 6 years I was known in my small town not as a wife, not as a teacher, not even as a woman, but as the barren one. It didn't start out that way. When I married James, I was 29, full of light, and foolish enough to think life came in neat little steps: marriage, honeymoon, pregnancy, baby shower. I even bought a pastel onesie 3 weeks after our wedding, just to manifest things. Months passed, then years. At first, it was just awkward smiles from friends with strollers. Then came the invasive questions, always framed as concern. Have you prayed about it? Have you tried fasting? My niece got pregnant after a spiritual bath. By year 3, the whispers turned sharp. Women at church began assigning blame. Some said I had aborted before marriage and was now reaping judgment. Others said my family was cursed. One woman, who barely knew me, suggested I might be a witch and didn't know it. I laughed the first time, then cried the 100th. James was supportive at first. We went through the motions: specialists, tests, injections. Everything came back normal, yet every cycle ended in bleeding and grief. Slowly, the strain started showing. His eyes got distant. His hugs got shorter. But the real fracture came from his mother. Let me tell you about Martha. Martha believed children were the only proof a woman had done her job. She had 4 of her own and saw me as a defective appliance her son had mistakenly bought. She started dropping hints, leaving photos of James's ex-girlfriends with their babies accidentally around the house. She asked James, within earshot, if he had ever considered preserving the family name another way. One night, I overheard her praying loudly that God would deliver James from the spell this barren woman has used to trap him. That was the night I broke. I packed a bag. I didn't leave the marriage, I just left the noise. I needed silence. Space to remember who I was before shame wrapped itself around my neck. I stayed with a childhood friend 2 towns over. Her name was Carla, and she had 3 wild boys and 0 interest in gossip. She let me sleep, eat, cry, and exist without explanation. And that, ironically, is when something shifted. I started going for walks, reading, breathing again. I went to a local fertility therapist just out of curiosity. She looked at my file and raised an eyebrow. "You've done everything right," she said. "But no one's asked what you want." I blinked. "I want a baby." She nodded. "And if it never happens?" My throat tightened. "I want peace," I said. She smiled. "Good. Because sometimes, when you stop chasing, what's meant to stay will find you." 6 weeks later, I fainted in Carla's kitchen. I thought it was stress. Turned out it was life. The stick turned pink. The scan showed a tiny flicker, heartbeat. I couldn't speak. I just pressed my hand to the screen and cried. Carla screamed like she'd won the lottery. I waited to tell James. I didn't even know if he wanted me back. But he found out before I could tell him. Martha, of all people, saw my skin photo on Facebook and called him. He showed up at Carla's door 2 days later. Eyes red, hands trembling. "I never stopped praying for this," he said. "I just stopped knowing how to pray." We talked. For hours. Days. It wasn't a clean reunion, but it was honest. He asked me to come home. This time I said yes, not because I needed him, but because I chose him. And then came them. The same people who had called me cursed suddenly flooded our home with congratulations. "We always knew God would do it," they said. One even offered to organize the baby shower. I smiled politely. But inside, I remembered everything. Martha came over the week I was due. She brought soup and a blanket. She didn't apologize, she just sat beside me and said, "I was wrong." That was enough. I gave birth on a Thursday morning, after 22 hours of labor, 3 panic attacks, and 1 emergency oxygen mask. They placed my daughter on my chest, and everything stopped. She was perfect, wrinkled, loud, alive. We named her Grace. Not because it was cute, but because that's what carried me through the fire. I still hear whispers. But they're different. "She's so strong," they say. She really went through it. She must have prayed hard. They don't know the half of it. They don't know about the nights I screamed into my pillow until I bled. The days I avoided baby showers. The shame that sat on my chest like a weight for years. But I know. And I look at Grace, my living proof that silence is sometimes louder than gossip, and that shame has an expiration date. So next time someone asks how I survived, I'll smile and say, I didn't survive. I rose.